The teacher, she is my first teacher, and she taught me to read Quran with tajweed. She's a mother. She has her own cup of parenting. Also, she's a speech and language therapist. And Alhamdulillah, I could go on, and I think I will stop for now. So please welcome Sister Aisha Abdul Hadi, everyone.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem. Amma ba'd. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Well, more than I deserve intro, subhanAllah. So I'm here today just as a community representative, inshallah, just as a servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just to give you a reminder, as we all as Muslims should continuously remind each other, and Muslims benefit from good reminders, inshallah. So I'm going to start off by asking you a question, sisters. If your house was on fire and your children were inside, what would be your immediate thought? It would be to get them out of the house, right? You wouldn't even think about, if the fire was small, you might think about putting it out, but your first and foremost safety, as a mom, your thought would be for the safety of your children, because you want to get them out, and you want to get them out of that awful situation. And as we saw, was it last month, where there was a house in an area not far from here, that the families did suffer, and I'll make it easy for them. And everybody was struck, because as moms, you relate straight away, don't you, when something happens to another child or a child from our community. So I'm going to ask you today, as a community, as Muslims, what are we doing then to protect our children from calamities which are similar to a fire, except that maybe they're not out in the open and you can't see them, but they're there and they exist. So as somebody who's worked in the mosque since I got married and since I moved to Newcastle, I do have my own group called Couple Parenting, so I work with about 200 families now, mashallah, and children as well. So we see everything in the community. We have cases that come to us in the Masjid, specifically lots of them regarding children and issues that are happening with children in our society today. So I'm talking about drug issues, issues with drinking, issues at school, and the list goes on and on, right? So these are issues which are prevalent. I'm not talking about non-Muslims or other communities. I'm talking about here in these communities, in Alvik, in Benwell, in Scotswood. Okay, so these are things that are going on. And as parents and as Muslims, what are we doing to tackle these issues? I would argue that the things that we need to do, the actions we need to take, start from before the children are even born. But now, alhamdulillah, we have children in us, and some of you might even be grandmas, aunties, alhamdulillah. But we have children amongst us, okay? And it's our responsibility that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given these children to us as an amana to do our very best by them. But unfortunately, as a society, by and large, we're failing to do that. I see children with their parents, and I see the same children without the parents. And it's always so interesting to me, because I studied child psychology, that's my actual background. How it's really interesting to me how different parents bring up children in different ways, and I see that when I interact with the children when they're outside on trips with me. So you have the ones who are mashallah well-mannered, you have the ones who are well-versed in the deen, you have the ones who have good akhlaq, and I see all the opposites as well. The ones who swear when the parents aren't around, the ones who mess around with their friends, the ones who at school have got friends, maybe the parents don't know about the friends, you know, the girls and the boys who are involved in things they shouldn't be involved in, because those things are haram. But because of the way they were brought up, they can get away with doing those things, knowing that, you know, the parents either don't know about it, or they know and they don't care about it, or they don't know what to do, so they've just left it. And you know, in the Quran, there's so many references about being righteous and doing good and doing good deeds. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us so many examples of doing good deeds, and we should encourage our children to be doing good deeds. So today, obviously, there's going to be a heavy focus on being charitable to this masjid. But there's other good deeds as well, you know, offering salah and giving zakah, all of those. And in the Quran, it says the example of those who spend their wealth in the way of Allah is like a seed seeds that sprout 7 ears. And in every year there are 100 grains, and this increases our barakah by giving, by giving sadaqah. And it's just one way of doing a good deed. It protects you from hardship. It puts barakah in your life. But much more important than the sadaqah side of things, obviously it's rewardable to give in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're not, in this country, you can't live here and say you're poor unless you're sleeping outdoors and you're homeless. There's nobody in this room. Everyone's different financial background, different situation. But you can't say you're poor in the sense you haven't got a roof over your head, you don't drive a car. If you have even those two things, if you compare yourself to the human population, you're actually really well off, alhamdulillah. And we should appreciate that by then thinking, okay, I can give some of my wealth away for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not just the once a year zakah, which is obligatory upon us, but to other good causes. You don't think twice about getting your designer handbags. And I know, because mashallah, I visit all communities. I'm not from the Bengali community, but when I'm married and moved to Newcastle, mashallah, there's a heavy Bengali community here. And mashallah, you guys always have the best designer bags. I'm not even just saying that, I see it in every party, mashallah. And it's fine, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you wealth. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, you're spending accordingly, but at the same time, you don't think twice to get it. That's what I mean. Nice clothes, nice hijabs, nice abayas, nice bags, mashallah. But you do when it comes to spending in the way of Allah. I know this because when I worked in the masjid, I'm going back 15 years, I remember we used to ask people to maybe give just for food on Eid or give for donations. And people look twice at you, or to spend in your masjid classes. You want the cheapest teacher, but you want them to give the best education, Islamic education to your children. But for schools, you're happy to even pay them to go to a private school because you want the best for them. And it's this double standard in our community. So why am I even talking about this? Is because you want the best for your children. Invest in your masjids. Okay, masjids aren't just a house of Allah and a building where the men come to pray 5 times a day. And Sister Frida knows as well, because she was also the head sister in Newcastle Central Mosque, where we did hundreds of activities for ladies, for children. Why? Because I used to say, get them into the masjid. If you don't get the little children into the masjid when they're little, even just entering the masjid, why are they going to come to the masjid when they're 20 or 30? Why are they going to come to the masjid when they're married? Why would they bring their own children? They never want to bring their own mums. So why even come to the masjid? Because as Muslim sisters, we're social creatures. We seek other humans. It's the way we are wired, psychologically and biologically. Nobody would say that they love just being alone. I'm not talking about introverts, might be shy and like spending time alone. As a human population, what do you do when you move to another city or you go somewhere? You look for people who are similar to you, right? When you hang out with your friends, you make friends who might be similar to you, they share the same values as you. It doesn't mean that they're all from the same country as you. It just means that you're happy in their friendship and in their company. So if you build a masjid where your children love coming and where you love coming, there's so many benefits. You get sukoon when you enter the masjid. Okay, you get blessings anyway because it's the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Generally people are going to do bad things or use bad language or have bad character generally, right? So it's a nice place to spend time. You're getting barakah, your children are studying the Quran. Inshallah, if you do fun activities, you've got a really lovely place here. So we do things like we used to do, we used to do things like prison curry. Last week my daughter did a fine arts workshop. We do anything and everything, but we want children to know that Muslims aren't any less. We want them to think you can also be someone, when you grow up, you can also be successful in your life whilst still being a Muslim, especially to the beautiful girls here, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always keep you protected and on the right path. We want them to feel when they come to any of my activities that they are still Muslim girls and they are still honoring their position as Muslim girls, but it doesn't mean they can't go out and do all the other things that we have them do when they come into the masjid, when they come into community centres, alhamdulillah. So and it gives you a sense of personal satisfaction as well. When we spend in the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it makes you feel good, and they've done a study on this. The people who are charitable and give charity feel good afterwards. Then as Muslims, you've got the added bonus that you're doing something for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so Allah's going to be pleased with you. Then you're showing your children that we spend our money towards this masjid, because that's a noble cause in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're setting an example to them. And then you know, inshallah, that after you're long gone and passed away, we don't know, sisters, when they're going to die. COVID came, COVID went. So many of our brothers and sisters passed away. Every week you hear of janazah in different masjids. And in this city, mashallah, there are so many Muslims. We do need lots of masjids to be able to cope with them. Alhamdulillah, you know, we're building the Newcastle Central Mosque. Because the plans were put forward 10 years ago, just to give you an example, we're never going to ever have enough parking spaces, because by the time it's now being built, there's already more people than there are parking spaces. So alhamdulillah, it means the population is growing, it means people are coming to the masjid. So when you're long gone and passed away, whenever that is, you know that at least you left a small legacy in the dunya. That where you're going to get your reward, the investment in the akhirah, inshallah. Inshallah, Allah will show it to you here in the dunya, but also in the akhirah, you will have it waiting for you, subhanAllah. Imagine you pass away, imagine it's Yawm al-Qiyamah, and you imagine you're on the day of judgment, you know, you're in Jannah, inshallah, and you see what is that? It's the deeds you put forward, and one of them was that you invested and gave for the cause of Allah by investing in a masjid, inshallah. So I'm not going to keep it any longer than that. Our sister said that other sisters are waiting to speak. Inshallah, I hope that today you will, not only today, either anything as small as you can, you give towards this building, or do something ongoing, even if it's small, consistent. Remember, Allah loves those deeds which are consistent, even if they are small. So even, for example, you pray 2 rakah extra, that's fine as long as you do it every single day. Even if you give a few pounds, whatever it is that you can afford, or you can afford in I know it's an economically difficult time, but whatever you can afford, even if you give it regularly and you forget about it, like your other subscriptions that you forget about, you set them up, you know, your Netflix and all of your Amazon, all of those, Amazon Prime, because you want things quickly, and you don't think about them because you think it's not that much money. Think about the masjid in the same way. Think, even if I don't see it here in the dunya, which you will because you're in the building, I'll see it on the day of judgment, inshallah, and my niyyah is just to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I hope Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gathers us all in Jannatul Firdaus, inshallah, as He has gathered us here today, this beautiful gathering. And also, Jazakumullah khair for having me and for listening to me. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.